Oh, what's up, guys? My name's Jellycook5, and welcome back to another episode of the F1 My Team Career Mode. We have got some new sponsors on our way, on our actual car, sorry, may I say. So we're just going to put them on, and then obviously with the regulations change, we have got 8 weeks remaining to be able to kind of regulate as many parts as we possibly can. Obviously, if we aren't to do so, then we're going to have a real disadvantage at the start of the season. It doesn't cost much. I think everyone ranges from about 600 to 200, I do believe, if I'm pretty sure in saying. I'm pretty sure some of them are a bit more expensive, but it's something that we really, really need to do, because otherwise we're going to be starting next season down the pack, and there will be no point kind of doing these upgrades that we've been doing throughout the season without having to kind of suit the regulations and everything else. We do that, we've got a lot of upgrades along the way, so we're going to be upgrading the car really nicely, and honestly, with a lot getting through the door, as you could see. And then while we are in America, so not in Miami, this time we are in Austin, Texas, on the circuit of the Americas, and this is going to be a really, really good test for us, and hopefully we are able to pull out the bag a decent performance. Obviously, we were decent in Qatar. We left off with a really, really good performance in Qatar with a P3. The sprint race wasn't the best, but we've got another chance to be able to try and up that with the sprint race this time round. We familiarise ourselves with the actual circuit itself in practice, and we seem to do alright, in all honesty. I felt comfortable with the car. The setup worked really well. I felt fast. I only tried out the medium tyre. I didn't bother with the soft. The speed traps were looking good, as you can see. I was first momentarily then. But yeah, I didn't seem awfully that bad, in honesty, and that was what I was quite happy with. Normally, if you can have some sort of a feel in practice, then you normally feel like you can do a little bit better in qualifying and so on. But obviously, we've got the sprint race as well, so that's going to kind of cater for if we do have a bad qualifying. And I feel like that kind of gives you some sort of advantage to be able to kind of get up the pack and have a better main race. But hopefully we won't have to worry about any of that, and we can push on and hopefully get a decent result. So as practice goes, it was really, really good, really, really positive. The car felt good, and we was going into qualifying really, really happy, in all honesty, with some programs tested, all done, and we was able to push through on to qualifying. In terms of what the leaderboards looked like, we finished on P3 in practice. No soft tyre time whatsoever, so that was interesting to see, in all honesty. But yeah, no soft tyre time, and then we go straight into qualifying. I'm really, really excited for this, and I was hoping to be able to pull a decent lap time out of the bag. Lap 1, in terms of the actual first qualifying, wasn't too bad, in all honesty. We actually went top of the straight at the top with a P1, and we actually do a better lap time in the second qualifying, even though we haven't got much ERS in the second lap, obviously, where it drains it so much within the first, and you don't have the control of the deployment of your ERS. Nevertheless, that didn't actually bother us whatsoever, and we seem to be putting in some really decent lap times. Sector 1, it came up as purple as we get to go up and down the hill then as we go onto the long straight before we do, and you get that long bit of DRS also. It's a track, I feel like, if you're suited on corner speed, and I feel like it works, but if you've got a lot of long straights and you're decent on your straight speed also, then that really, really comes into a massive benefit. As you can see, I was actually on a minus at the point when we was going on the straight, even with the DRS. Obviously, there was no ERS due to be deployed, so I feel like that was probably taking effect. But as you can see, as we go late onto the brakes and we actually go through the corners, we don't actually make up that much time, and then all of a sudden, bang, it makes up all that time. So we was definitely quicker than our previous lap. We only get a green sector 2, hoping to push on and make it a purple sector 3, sorry, not a green, as we then try and push on and get a better lap time. As you saw in the leaderboard, Sergio Perez made a fastest lap, but for whatever reason, I stayed in P1. Really, really odd, so I didn't expect that whatsoever. But as we come to near this second lap, this is going to be the last lap that we actually are going to be doing on track. I never ever go mad on qualifying. If I feel comfortable with the lap time, I will stick with it. As we look to go over the checkered line, as we wait for the lap time, 1:34.8, so that is better than what we had previously. That only put us literally 0.78 off the actual top, so literally the margin is nothing. Felipe Massa finishing in 20th, no change there. Regardless of his result, we are looking forward to being 5th on the grid for the sprint race.
So it's all about speed in today's sprint. Not very many laps and no chance to get ahead on strategy. Who here today has the raw skill to take them to the top? let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting sprint. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Russell, Cook, Perez, Sainz, Norris, Fernando Alonso, Oscar Piastri, Gasly, Hulkenberg, Magnussen, Stroll, Ocon, Bottas, Albon, Tsunoda, Joe, Massa, Sargent, and Nick de Vries. And with preparations almost complete, let's head trackside for today's sprint. Okay, here we go.
Here we go then, P5 on the grid as we look to try and start this Austin Grand Prix as it's 5 lights out as the rev limiter hits the limit and away we go. A really good start as we get past George Russell with Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc just in front of us as we try and see if we can take a dive on the outside and maybe just overtake a collision with Max Verstappen. It must have been ever so slight as we slot ourselves into P4 just behind Lewis Hamilton, and we have got 7 laps. We are on the medium tyre, Max Verstappen being the only one that has actually chosen the softer compound out of the lot. I'm pretty sure most people were on the medium due to the grip that it offers later on in the race. Obviously we haven't got many laps to complete, but regardless of that, I did actually feel like the medium tyre did work a little bit better overall in the weekend as we go down the hill and we're chasing the pack just in front of us, and that consists of Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. We look really quick though as we try and drain a little bit of ERS, and we're going to try and catch up to Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes engine. George Russell just behind in 400ths of a second with Carlos Sainz 900ths of a second when beating the top 6. We go on to the right hand side trying to get past Lewis Hamilton there as it's going to be late onto the brakes. He goes on the inside getting the curb there, but we are through pretty much as it will to will, but we do lack that. They do lack that little edge. Sorry, we don't, because we are through, and that is us into P3 as we got Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. Rolls a reverse for Charles Leclerc as he slots down into P2 with Max Verstappen going past. The softer tyre will be good initially, don't get me wrong, but whether that's going to last the whole entirety is another question as we look to go and complete the lap 1 of 7. This has been a really good start. We started in P5, we've made our way up into P3. We're going to try and take a look at Charles Leclerc, that is for sure, as it goes on the laps. I mean, lap 3 we will have DRS also. Fastest lap goes to Max Verstappen on the softer tyre, and we are definitely going to be trying to take a look at Charles Leclerc and see if we can stick with the pack. As we go late onto the brakes, we're going to go on the outside once again. I feel like we can get a better exit doing so. Leclerc gets a decent exit on that corner also, and now it is time to get the hammer down and definitely chase Charles Leclerc. Max Verstappen is making a decent gap. He's already got a second. He's got fastest lap and he's already gained a second from everyone else. He is definitely the man to beat as of the moment as we try and see if we can chase Charles Leclerc now as we go down on this long straight. We haven't got any DRS, but we're going to try and use some ERS, that is for sure, as we look to see what side we're going to go off Charles Leclerc. He's trying to push me out on into the left, and we're going to get the inside line as we go late onto the brakes, and we are through on Charles Leclerc. Nice and clean overtake on Charles as we go through into P2 with Max Verstappen upon the horizon. He's definitely the one to try and beat as we try and maintain the car through the corner, and this has been a very good start to this sprint race. I'm really looking forward to see what can develop as we've got a few people behind us in Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton and George Russell making up the top 5 in this Grand Prix as we go and look to complete the final few corners. And here is the last turn, exceeded track limits. We've got to be careful about that as we hit the final corner, and we're on the straight, and this is going to be DRS is enabled from previous lap. We've got a fast lap, so this is time to get the hammer down and try and minimise that time, in all honesty, because what we've got 100th of a second to be able to kind of get to that 1 second gap to then actually obviously get DRS. That is going to be the most important thing to be able to try and minimise. If we kind of let it go, then obviously we are going to be climbing a big mountain, because I think as soon as you go over that 1 second mark and you're not able to gain it back in any sort of time, it is only one to kind of fight back, and you're just fighting against yourself more than anything. Lap 5 of 7 now, and we have increased that a little bit of a gap in all honesty. It's not much, it's 900 a second, 700 a second as we go out the corner. The speed is much better, and we're going to get DRS, so it's going to be interesting to see where we get at the end of this part of the track, as we are trying to use our ERSs also. We have maintained it really, really well. As we close up on Max Verstappen, we're going to go late onto the brakes, but this is not time for a manoeuvre, as he holds his line really well, and we're just a little bit too far back to be able to try and see if we can make the overtake. Not yet, that's to say. We're going to have to be patient with this one and see if we can maintain the speed. I think Max Verstappen has kind of blunted his softer tyre more than anything, because he doesn't look as fast as what he previously started. Maybe he's kind of used it all in one, I'm not too sure. Obviously, we're going to be on the softer tyre in the main race, and we're going to be doing many, many more laps on that compared to what they are now. So it's going to be really an interesting affair to how the tyre reacts on track. Obviously, it's going to be warm in Texas. This is really, really interesting to see how it's planning out. Lap 5 of 7 is completed as we push on to lap 6 now. We're going to get DRS on this straight as we look to go up the hill, and we are gaining time and kind of losing time at the same time. In all honesty, it's really, really hard to keep up with the Red Bull machine of Max Verstappen. The world champion knows how to push it to the limit, and it is really interesting to see where we're going to be. The gap behind is really, really kind of generous, in all honesty. Really, really far behind, so it's only between us and Verstappen as we try and close the gap that little by little, 700th of a second as of the moment, as we go down the straight, and we're going to get DRS, and the time is being minimised. We're using as much ERS as possible, as it's literally the most minimum we have literally got. Not a lot left whatsoever as we go late onto the brakes, and we are through Max Verstappen. We are passed into P1. This is the first time we have ever led a sprint race in this career. It's only taken us about 19 races. Bearing in mind though, X amount of races don't include the sprint, so I don't think we've had that many. I think we've probably had about 4 or 5, if I'm right in saying. I might be stand corrected on that one. I might be completely wrong, but we are through into P1, and we have gained a massive gap already, and it's only been a few corners as we go down the hill, as we go through this corkscrew of the track, and we are looking to try and complete this Grand Prix in P1, and it looks to be that we might just do that as we go on to complete lap 6 of 7, going on to the final lap, as we try and maintain the car speed through there. And we do lose a bit of time as Max Verstappen gains a bit of time on us, as we do kind of drift out into the back of that corner, not holding the car whatsoever, and we go late onto the brakes with this corner, maintaining the time. We've done really well as we hold our own, and Max Verstappen is just behind me. As you look back to me, you can see it in the rearview mirror. The Red Bull machine is menacingly kind of gaining, as it's now 400 a second, 300 a second, as we go through this tight bit of chicane, and through we go. In all honesty, we look really, really good. We look strong through these corners. Max Verstappen looks fast, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely the one between us and Max. Lewis Hamilton is about 2.5 seconds off, and the top 5 from George Russell is 3.6, and same with Leclerc, that's about 3.4. So the gap is definitely marginal, big margin in all honesty, and it is definitely interesting to see if Max Verstappen is going to take a dive on this straight. 900ths of a second as of the moment, as he's going to get DRS. We're going to use as much ERS possible. It's pretty much on its last legs. Not much time is gained by Max Verstappen, but a bit has. It's about 500ths of a second now, as it goes down to 400ths of the time. It is declining, but there's not many overtake parts of this track. If he doesn't catch up to me now, I don't think there's any point where he can actually get past, in all honesty, because these parts of the track are really easy to defend, and you can be really, really slow and defend it really, really well. That being said, the tyres are definitely showing a little bit of a decrease as we look to try and drift through that corner, and Max Verstappen is literally, he's just there. His corner exit doesn't seem as fast though, from what you can see. He closes up really well on the straights in terms of getting on that rear view mirror, as you can see. And as soon as we burst out the corner on the exit, we seem to be really, really fast. So I feel like that is definitely a strength. As we go into the final corner, the checkered flag is being raised as we go on the checkered line. That is going to be P1 in Austin, Texas. We did it indeed. Our first sprint race for the JD Cup 5 Motorsport team. Lovely stuff, and this is definitely more of this to come as we look to kind of be on pole position for the Grand Prix next time, and this is going to be absolutely unreal. If anyone said to me that this would happen at the start of the weekend, I'd have chewed your hand off, because I was not expecting this whatsoever. But we really put in a shift this time round, and we are definitely proving to be a menace on track, and I'm just so looking forward to next season more than anything, because I know we are going to have an even faster car.
Don't need me to remind you that Formula One is now so beloved in the United States that we race here 3 times a year. But let's give respect to COTA, or the Circuit of the Americas, to give it its full name. This place laid the foundations for this moment, and still remains the host of the US Grand Prix. We're racing today then in Travis County, Texas, where 20 corners and speeds of up to 200 miles per hour await us on this magnificent racetrack. It's 60% full throttle, with plenty of good opportunities to pass, especially through the 2 DRS zones into turn 1 and the long back straight into turn 12. What a race we have in store today. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Cook lines up on pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Russell, Sainz, Perez, Fernando Alonso, Gasly, Oscar Piastri, Norris, Magnussen, Verstappen, Stroll, Hulkenberg, Bottas, Ocon, Massa, Tsunoda, Sargent, De Vries, Joe, and Alex Albon picks up the last spot on the grid. With preparations almost complete, let's head down to the track. Alongside me to discuss all the action today is Natalie Pinkham. Thanks for joining us, Natalie. And tell me, you were down in the pit lane earlier. How do you think the track conditions are today?
Well, the surface looks clean enough, but I'm a little bit worried about the track temperature. It's pretty cool out there, which could give some teams difficulties when it comes to keeping their tyres in the right operating window. The cars out there that work their tyres hard and really put a lot of energy through them, well, they'll be the ones that are better off.
Here we are then, the second race of the episode. This is the main one, 5 lights out as we go on the pole position on the Austin Grand Prix, and away we go. A really, really good start as we got Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, George Russell and Carlos Sainz as they battle it out behind us. We get a really, really good start, avoiding any sort of collisions behind us as we go, and away we go more than anything. And that is a really, really good start to this Grand Prix, and we are definitely being the faster out of the loss as we go right ahead. And this is definitely the start of more things to come. The first time that we have been on pole position, luckily because of that brilliant sprint race more than anything. Such a fanatical result in that, as we now to battle off the ones behind us. We're not used to leading at the start, but this is what we need to have. We need to have more experience in this sort of field, as we've got Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez making up the top 5 as of the moment at lap 1 of 20. Lewis Hamilton about 600 of a second, with top 5 being about 2 seconds separated, so not a lot of time whatsoever. Here we are then as we go into the final corner, making up lap 1 of 20, just making sure everything is all good with the car then. And we've got Lewis Hamilton just behind us, checking on our teammate, fastest lap as of the moment. But Lewis Hamilton is going to take a look on the inside, and through he goes up the top of the hill. We're going to take a look at him also as we try and overtake him, and we do exactly that. So the battle seems to be lying with Lewis Hamilton as of the moment. Whether that's going to stick in the Grand Prix, who is to know, in all honesty. It's definitely going to be interesting as he's going to take a look. As you can see in my rearview mirror, he is right on me. He's literally stiffing my rear wing as we look to try and see if we can defend our line, and we're really, really trying to hold it together as the car, he's just battling with it, in all honesty. Not too sure if the tyres are fully up to temperature, because we are really, really skidding across the track as we exceeded track limits as of the moment. But this is going to be the moment where I think Lewis Hamilton is going to take a look at us, not maybe on this corner, but definitely on the straight. There's no DRS as of the moment. That will be commenced as of lap 3, but in terms of the actual laps itself, I think it might just be at lap 3 he's going to get the better of me with this DRS. I really need to try and get away with him, and that's, you can see, I'm trying to activate the DRS. We have done really well with not being able to get overtaken in this part of the track. It's just when we get onto lap 3 and he does get DRS eventually, we might really have some problems, but we're going to suffer with that when it comes to it, because at the moment we're still in P1 as we go wide on that corner, allowing some space, and we try and maintain the car whatsoever. We really nearly crashed on that part of the circuit, and Lewis Hamilton is through, a gift that is, and Charles Leclerc is going to try and take a look also. He's not as successful as Hamilton was, but yeah, that was really, really edgy. Really had to hold the car there, as I went really wide for whatever reason. I just went too fast into that bit of the track, and unfortunately for us, it really looked bad for us in all honesty, because that could have been much worse than what it was. We do lose out on the position, don't get me wrong, but that could have been even worse, as George Russell is now behind us in P3. He's got the fastest lap as of the moment, with Lewis Hamilton making a decent bit of time in front of me. Nick De Vries is out the session now, another AlphaTauri. Engine failure, I can only assume, as he goes around the corner. As you can see, there's no smoke being blown as of yet, but the yellow flags are being waved, and he is literally going to be conking out on the start finish line, and that is a really unfortunate one for Nick De Vries. An unfortunate event for Nick, in all honesty, and he's had a very, very bad season, He's not been able to get going whatsoever in that AlphaTauri, and that AlphaTauri just doesn't seem strong enough to be able to compete in F1. Lap 7 of 20 then, and we're still in the same position as prior to what we were in the previous previous scene, and we have got Charles Leclerc just behind us in a 1.7 gap, George Russell 3 seconds, and Sergio Perez 3.6, so the gap is very big in all honesty as we try and see if we can do anything in this Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton looks away, and it seems to be that we're going to really struggle, but we're going to try and maintain our own and get the time down as we go on in these laps. We're nearly coming to an end of this lap, but we're going to be boxing this lap also as the tyres look to be worn down more than anything. The softer tyre has definitely degraded really fast. It's only lasted 7 laps, so no wonder Max Verstappen was actually worried in that sprint race as we go through the pit lane then, and we're looking for an optimal pit stop as of always, and we're going on to the medium set of tyre, and that will fulfill us for the rest of the race. Our pit stops have been very good, and another good one this time round as we go and get changed as the smoke pulls off the softer tyre and the medium tyre goes on. So away we go, and we're going to be rejoining the race. Whether we're going to rejoin in a decent position, that is to be said yet, as we've got Yuki Tsunoda just behind and he goes in front. Guo Hanzhou, we're going to slot in between Tsunoda and Guo Hanzhou then. So we're currently in P19, but obviously everyone else is going to pit and so on. So no worries as of the moment. In all honesty, we're going to be climbing up the pack, and we're going to try and make some time that we have lost on Lewis Hamilton. It's going to be interesting to see when he comes out the pits, as we got to warm the medium tyre up. We're going to definitely be faster in the ones in front of us. Obviously they're going to be struggling on a degraded soft. We should get DRS on this bit of straight also as we close up on the AlphaTauri machine. The only one on the track as of the moment in Yuki Tsunoda, and we're definitely going to try and see if we can take a look on that straight. There's no point trying to worry ourselves on this bit of corner. As you can see, our teammate Felipe Massa just in front in P16, a little bit of a more respectful position for himself. As we go through on Yuki Tsunoda, the straight speed and the ERS is too phenomenal for him, and through we go on Yuki. The next one is going to be Alexander Albon then, as we're going to take a look before he does pit, and we're going to try and get past him so we don't lose any time. Up on the inside, that we go. He allows the space in all honesty, and Felipe Massa is going to be the one next here. I do believe he should pit, and that's not going to be an issue, so we shouldn't have to worry about overtaking him in all honesty as he pulls onto the left. No, he doesn't. So he doesn't actually pit whatsoever. That's an interesting strategy from Felipe Massa, but we're going to try and overtake him. A little bit of an illegal overtake, but nothing is penalised from the FIA, and we're going to be battling it out with Felipe Massa as he's actually got a decent bit of straight speed. Why he can't do that with the other cars in race, I'm not too sure, but we are eventually through on our teammate Felipe Massa. I have stood by this, and I should say this every single time. EA, please implement team orders. If you are faster than your teammates, then you need to have a team order where you are boss, and you should be able to have it where you are safe basically to overtake your teammate. But maybe we shall see that in another game, and I'll whack another 80 quick price tag on that one. As you can see, lap 9 of 20, P16, we've got Valtteri Bottas, Nico Hulkenberg and Esteban Ocon just in front. Going to be interesting to see if we can take a look at them now and take an overtake. As we go past Valtteri Bottas, we slot in between the Alpine machine and the Alfa Romeo, and we're going to try and see if we can take a look at Esteban Ocon. I'm pretty sure these lot should be pitting because they're on the softer tyre. We're lap 9 of 20. Mine was completely degraded by lap 7, let alone what theirs is. Theirs probably been torn to shreds more than anything. As we try and see if we can now overtake them. Are they going to go to the left hand side? Esteban Ocon is, Nico Hulkenberg isn't, so we're through up into P15, P14, no, P16 isn't that? Yeah, P14, yeah, I'm getting confused with all these ones going. And then obviously with the other people pitting, we're going to be closing the gap. Lewis Hamilton has pitted, so he has pitted. He's just in front of me as of the moment. Oscar Piastri, hopefully he can do a job for us and hold him up, as we've got 10 laps left of this American Grand Prix, and we're 1.2 gap in just behind Lewis Hamilton. We've got past Nico Hulkenberg with absolute ease, and we should slot into the positions where everyone's pitting, and we should go straight back into P2 with absolute ease. Sector 1 being a purple sector, so we're definitely fast in the medium tyre, and we're going to try and push as much as we possible, because I feel like without that mistake that we've been made, I don't feel like we should be as far behind. I feel like the mistake really cost us some vital track time. Obviously we probably lost about a second. I reckon that would be about that, but it's one of those mistakes that are going to be made, and it's not a costly one in such, because if we get a P2 we can come away from this weekend and say we've won the sprint race and we came P2 in the main race, so there's not many bad things to be said about that whatsoever. As we look to go on this lap now, as we try and see what our sector 2 will be like now. We're going to get purple. Yes, we are, so we're definitely fast. Lewis Hamilton's overtaken Oscar Piastri, so he's on the charge also. This is definitely going to be an interesting turn of events of what is going to happen. I'm just hoping that Oscar Piastri isn't going to dumb this lap, because it seems to be a very, very fast one then as we complete the last few final corners, and we're going to try and take a look at Oscar Piastri. Not too sure if we're going to be able to overtake him on this part of the circuit, but maybe at this point as we close the gap, we need to go into the back of him as we're going to try and go on to late into the brakes, and through we go on Oscar Piastri. Whether that's going to dim the lap time as we go over the checkered line, and we're going to find out. That is the fastest lap of the race so far, the best being a 1:36.7. Lovely stuff, and this is definitely proving to be an amazing Grand Prix. We might not be P1, but we definitely look at the fastest, as we've got the fastest lap, and we have got enough time behind us with Charles Leclerc, 4.2 seconds, so nothing to worry about as of yet, and this is definitely proving to be a dominant weekend. Here we are then, as you can see, lap 15 of 20, and Charles Leclerc has pushed the gap so clear, and he is definitely one to be able to try and see if he can try and get into P2. Charles Leclerc was about 4 seconds behind me in lap 12, but that is definitely not the case now, as he is right on the rear as we try and see if we can defend our line, and hopefully he won't get past us. I'm not too hopeful though, because he definitely looks in the faster machine. Obviously he's got a Ferrari engine just like myself, but it's a bit more fine-tuned compared to what I've got as of the moment, but we're definitely going to try and battle it out with the Ferrari man as we try and see down this straight. 600 per second, 500 per second. He's got DRS. We haven't got much ERS to use. Even if we want to use it, we're going to try and maintain it as much as possible in honesty. Charles Leclerc is closing the gap, and he's going to try and take a look. He's gone on the right hand side. We activate the ERS momentarily. We're on the inside line as we go through on Charles Leclerc, and he have maintained that gap as of the moment, and we do keep him behind us. Lap 15 of 20, we go wide. That was the point where we nearly crashed on that second lap, and we are through on Charles Leclerc, trying to hold this point, and this is going to only have the times where people like Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez do actually gain a decent bit of gap, because obviously where we're battling it out, we're going to be losing time left, right and centre, but not for them to, because they're definitely going to be closing the gap as we look to try and complete lap 16 or 20 without any collisions and without any overtakes. And he's definitely going to try and take a look at us. He's going to get DRS on this straight as we look to go up the hill. This is one really good part of the circuit where it gets really interesting. If he does get close he is, but I don't think he's close enough as we go late onto the brakes, and we are still in the position of P2. Charles Leclerc is being held off, and this is really good for us as of the moment. This is definitely turning out to be a decent Grand Prix. A lap 18 of 20 then. Charles Leclerc is trying all his most. He's just literally giving every single bit he can, but it doesn't seem to be enough, and the Monaco man has to settle for P3 at the moment, and he does actually kind of trying to go off to the side at one point, and he actually does kind of hold back, and it's a bit of a weird one because, as you saw, the rear view mirror was pretty much hold over the Ferrari. He is there though, and as you can see, we're not that fast through these bit of corners, and he is definitely going to capitalise on that as he tries to see if he can maintain any more time. 700 of the second as of the moment. He's going to get DRS on this straight. He might be losing time momentarily, but he's not going to do on this straight because we haven't got many ERS kind of percentage whatsoever. They're not worried about the tyre condition, but I definitely am. As you can see, it's on the high 30s going on to 40, so the tyres have definitely pretty much had it as we try and wear off the time of Charles Leclerc. And as you can see, I was talking about Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz, and look to what you can see both of them there, and this is definitely going to be trying interesting to see if we can hold off any of them and not go down the pack, as we're on lap 19 or 20, and we're going to try and complete this last penultimate lap with any collisions whatsoever. And that was nearly one there, and we're nearly one behind us also. Sergio Perez nearly going into the back of Charles Leclerc. Sergio Perez goes through on Charles Leclerc. Perez up into third, and Leclerc back into third now as they battle it out, and literally a case of going back and forth. Charles Leclerc momentarily in P3, Perez in P4, Carlos Sainz in P5, Lewis Hamilton in P1. He is wheeling away with this Grand Prix, but we're not worried about that. We're worried about the battle behind us. Carlos Sainz now taking a look at his Monaco teammate being Charles Leclerc. This is really interesting, and as the battle unfolds behind us, that means we can only gain time in front. Hopefully we can get it to whether we are above of a second on that straight, and where there will be no real overtaking points, and we can maintain this P2 as we go through the last parts of the half of the track. More than anything, it's not even the last part. I wish it was, as we look to go down the hill, and we're going to go onto that straight, and I don't think they're going to have enough time to even get DRS. This has really worked in our favour. We was worried about them catching up, but in all honesty, with them battling out, they've lost time and I've gained time as we go on the straight then. And as the DRS isn't activated for neither of them, I think it's about 900 a second. I'm not too sure if Leclerc would have got it. They're going to have DRS, being Carlos Sainz and Sergio Perez for sure. It's going to literally be a train more than anything, as Charles Leclerc has gained some time on us. We're going to use ERS though, and I don't think there's really any other overtaking points unless we were to make a mistake like we previous did, and I really hope we don't, because this is been a phenomenal Grand Prix. This has been unbelievable. We have fought with the big boys. We have proved it in the sprint race where we got P1. Unfortunately, we made that little mistake where Lewis Hamilton got through with us and he's gone into P1, but we still slotted in that P2. So from the most of the Grand Prix, we have pretty much held second position. So we have done very, very well. Confirmation of Lewis Hamilton winning this Grand Prix. Fair play to the Mercedes man. He has definitely proved to be the better of the two, and unfortunately for us, we have to settle for P2, but it's not unfortunate because I am really, really happy with it and over the moon more than anything. As we look to hit the final corner, the checkered flag is being waved, and we're going to go over the checkered line in P2. Charles Leclerc in P3, Carlos Sainz in P4, and Sergio Perez making up the top 5. Phenomenal Grand Prix in Austin, Texas, and this has been one to remember for sure. A much needed battle that we need, and we need it for the experience, both being driver of the day in the sprint and the main race, as we look to collect our trophies then. And this has been absolutely phenomenal. So nice to see us on the podium once again, and it is definitely something that we are getting used to now. Obviously, we're not winning races left, right and centre, don't get me wrong. I don't feel like we're dominating in any factor, but we're definitely up there, and that's what we need to be. We just need to be competing, and that is the main thing, as they throw the champagne over each other, and that is a wrap more than anything. That is the end, and this has been absolutely brilliant. I'm lost for words more than anything how good it's been. So happy to see it. It's been so refreshing. As you see, P2, and overall we gained 27 points from the sprint and the main race, and that has been a brilliant end to this Grand Prix. The constructors stay the same. Obviously, we're too far on the Ferraris. There's no kind of real gap being made on them. Wasn't really expecting, in honesty, to have any sort of gap on the Ferraris until maybe next year. That is to be said. And as you look at the standings then, as we look at the main race as being the standings, we're seeing Felipe Massa finishing 19th. No surprise there. As we go onto the main standings though, we're still in P7, but we're very, very close to P6. We're very close to 6th position in the standings. So going to be really interesting to see if we can make the jump up to go above Carlos Sainz. So hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Please like and subscribe for more content just like this one, and don't forget to hit the notification button so you never miss a video. Cheers.